Bryan Edwards, who was wide receiver 63, 34 receptions, 59 targets, 571 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 9.78% target share out there in the desert of Las Vegas coming over this offseason. Thoughts on Bryan Edwards?
I liked Bryan Edwards last year, probably a little bit more than most, and got burned a little bit, right? Like he just didn't quite pan out with what the Raiders were trying to do. He gets new life in Atlanta. They needed help in this wide receiver room. He's a guy that should be able to come in and be your chain mover, right? Like he doesn't have blazing speed. He runs a pretty good route though. So he's a guy that if he's able to come in, and all these guys are building rapport with Mariota, right? So it's not that anybody has an advantage at this point, but if he's able to come in and use the fact that he has been in the NFL for a couple seasons now to his benefit, we might see him start the season off as the top receiver in Atlanta, and it might eventually change towards Drake London. But I think Edwards has an opportunity to targets at least. So he's a guy that I'm keeping an eye on, right? He's a late wide receiver, grab wide receiver, he'd be your wide receiver 5, maybe even 6 in some cases. Just most people have no idea about this kid. He's a guy that I'm willing to throw a late round flyer on in a couple different leagues just to, check the pulse of it, see how it's going. But he's also a guy that I'm going to kind of put a star next to, if you will. And I will keep track of what he's doing week over week.
Bryan Edwards to me is a guy that's going to be a undrafted guy that you add on to the watch list, and you just keep an eye out on that one. Like that's that same type of deal for me on this one. Not a guy that I'm going to be targeting in any draft, but is a guy that does have and has had several, a lot of intrigue around him for several years now. Like, is this going to be the year?